Welcome to Fearless Not Careerless. I'm Darren Mel. If you're stepping into the real world or trying to figure out how to move forward without losing your mind, this podcast is for you. I spent more than a decade hiring, training, and leading young professionals, and here's what I know. Talent matters. Work ethic matters. But emotional intelligence, integrity, and how you show up every day, that's what actually builds a career. Each week in under 12 minutes, we break down the real lessons that no one teaches you in school. Because being fearless doesn't mean being reckless. It means building something real. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Fearless Not Careerless. And I'm your host, Darren Mel, lifelong middle manager. And for about 11 years, I got a chance to work with some really amazing people and helping them build their careers, where I specifically hired recent college graduates into an entry-level sales role and ended up being there for just under 11 years and hired over 120 superstars. And one of those superstars has come by today to talk to us and give her insight. And she goes by the name of Crystal Yildirim. Crystal Yildirim, nice to see you again. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Darren, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for coming on. And for everyone, Crystal, just to give you a little backstory on her, one of my fondest memories, and during a time when the world was on fire, I guess we'll call it, during the pandemic, when I was actually promoted to lead this entire team on for all of North America, and had never worked at home a day in my life, and was waiting for my manual to come in the mail on how to lead a team remotely, and it never did. But thankfully, I hired some great people. Crystal was one of them who joined my team back during the pandemic and has risen to, I think I saw promotion of account executive 2 or something like that. Is that right, Crystal?
Correct. Yeah, just landed the senior AE2 role. So definitely has been a great and long journey, but happy to be where I'm at today.
Absolutely. And very, very proud of you from the very beginning. And so as we get started here, I've got, some of the questions that I wanted to ask, and this is to help for those of you that are out listening that are in school right now. And I wrote the book Fearless Not Careerless, and then started this podcast because what I saw with a lot of people is a tremendous amount of fear. And I know this one wasn't one of the questions, but I wanted to ask you this one first because I think I get a more real answer when I don't let you prep for it, and then we'll go into the ones that I prepped. All right, is that fair?
Yeah,
Okay.
ready.
But what was your sense of fear? You were applying for jobs, and I forgot, because all of us, including myself, have our degrees in the other thing that we didn't do. But what was your degree, and why, and then the sales, and then how much fear did you have going into this?
So I actually graduated from the University of Florida with my bachelor's in business administration, and I was lucky enough to be able to do a dual degree and get my master's of international business at the same time. As you mentioned, Darren, peak COVID, so it was a great time to get my education and really just improve myself. Luckily, the business school definitely got me prepared for sales, and I know it's not the same for everyone else, but UF really did a good job of prepping me for that. But I think my fear came from not knowing too much about corporate America. I am a first generation college graduate or college graduate. Neither of my parents technically had corporate America jobs. So my fear coming out of college was, what is corporate America all about? And more importantly, how am I going to get my foot in the door in corporate America, not having a huge network to lean on? But luckily you betted on me. And if it wasn't for Darren, I don't know if I would have made as much progress in corporate America as I have today. But I think my fear was the fear of the unknown of am I going to be able to find a job with my limited network? And two, am I going to be able to thrive in this setting where I'm not super familiar, don't have a lot of guidance, and don't have a lot of mentors within that space, at least coming out of college?
Sales, though. I mean, you got your degrees in something else. I mean, what the heck? I mean, it's like,
It worked
why?
out. It worked out.
Okay.
Why sales? I think the biggest thing for me was UF did require an internship before graduating, and I'm really, really thankful they did because I originally wanted to do marketing and no hate on marketing, that they are the business engine that keeps sales running. But in my internship, they were like, hey, we actually have no marketing internships. We only have a BDR internship. I had no idea what really a BDR was. I didn't even really know about tech sales, but it was a tech sales startup. I did the BDR internship and I was like, holy crap, pardon my
That's right. I
language.
remember that now. That's why one of
Holy
the
crap.
reasons I was like, I like her. Okay. All right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think she can do this. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So you
I
you,
saw I
you
saw the
dabbled a
earning
little bit.
potential. Yeah, I dabbled. I saw the earning potential. I saw the control of the business when you're on the sales side of things, and it just really empowered me. But I think the earning potentials really got me going.
No, there's not look, I got no issue with you saying that because I was for the same for me. So let's get into some of the questions here. So when you landed your first job, your first real job, what surprised you most about the working world? Because I know we all have our thought on our head of what it is, and then I would say then there's the reality of what it actually is. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think the biggest surprise for me was um, how dynamic the working world is, especially coming into a tech company. I was also very surprised at how willing everyone is to kind of lean in and help you. I know that's not the same for all companies and all industries, but starting in corporate America and luckily in the company that I was able to start in, I felt really lucky that so many people of different backgrounds, different ages, different ethnicities, races, all of the above were able to like come together and pour into one each other, like not even just the people starting out in their careers, but all these other teams. It really shocked me. I think coming from the outside looking in, I thought it was going to be way more of like a solo job where you're trying to figure it out yourself. But I felt really lucky to have a company that had a lot of different people coming in to help you. And I think that's what surprised me the most is how willing everyone was to help me, to pour into me, to help me grow and really listen in and lend me a hand. And I'm really thankful for that.
What was your what was the biggest mistake you made in the first couple of years? I mean that you think.
I think my biggest mistake in the first couple of years was lacking confidence in what I was bringing to the table. I was always kind of doing what everyone else does in corporate America, which is comparing myself, to other people, where they're
Hmm.
at in the role, where they're at in, their career path. And I think I lacked a little bit of confidence, especially my first year of like putting myself out there, reaching out, putting my hand up, asking, am I capable to do that role? Or, would you consider me to do that project for you? I think I was just a little bit intimidated, but back to the people around me, they really helped push me and see like you are capable, you do have the confidence to get this job done. And I think by the time I was rolling into my second year, I could really see it, feel it. And I really started to gain that confidence that you need to thrive in sales. But
Hmm.
I think in that first year, I think where I struggled the most is building that confidence and just being too scared to either reach out and ask people for help or vice versa. See if I could help them, get something across the line. So I think that's where I wish I could go back and just tell younger me, have a little bit more confidence, put yourself out there, know that you're in this role for a reason, and don't get imposter syndrome.
There's that word again. There it is. I hear it all the time. You said in your entire sentence, so you said the word fear a couple times. You said scared, and you said imposter syndrome. I got a news flash for all of you out there. I'm a Gen Xer in his late 50s, and it never goes away. It's there, but there's something inside you. And it's interesting that you say that because in the book, there's a section in it that I wrote. And in the section, it's called I See You, Can You See Me? And I even did an episode on this very topic is that we look at someone because okay, I'm older than you. I look older. So I think sometimes people see people and then they come in and you have a title. You're the director of this, you're just naturally intimidated by it. And when in the book and why I wrote it so sarcastically because I tell my story of the bumbling idiot that had no clue, no plan, no networking, and here I am telling you guys to do all this stuff, and I didn't do any of it. And so, but what I really learned over that time was is that I'm just a grown up version of 25-year-old Darren and or 30-year-old Darren. Those people are long gone, but who you are at this point and being able to see yourself in other people that And that's why what I think hopefully try to do with all of you in the interview process is say, look, I'm trying to help you find what you're looking for that is the right fit for you. And I jokingly tell people in the book is like, no one taught me how to interview. I taught myself. So we're all bumbling along. But the key is that you come in and understand like I belong here. This is what I want. And just because someone has more years of experience from me, you remember my time working with my co-leaders there at Equinix, Jack and Alexa and Fabio, who are 20 years younger than me or whatever. But I learned so much from them once I had them as leaders because we were able to share and bounce ideas off of each other. So I think that like what you're saying here is like you're not as fearful now, but it's always there. It's always there.
It
And those are
is.
the things that you just have to, I think, be aware of it. And you mentioned something, so let's go back to that when you mentioned about telling your younger self. The one of the questions I wanted to ask, and this one is like, because I'm not always a big, especially in sales, the whole 4 year degree and everything. I think that there's personality and drive in it. But what's one thing that school prepared you for, and that what you're doing right now, and what's one thing that you were not prepared for at all that college or even high school prepared you for?
I think it's different for everyone because obviously, what you study in school differentiates. And I will say, being in the business school at UF, they really honed in on preparing you for interviewing, like resume, networking, pitching yourself, like your elevator pitch. And, speaking with some of my friends, like not all of them had that same experience. So I will say that's one thing
Okay.
that the UF Business School did really well in preparing us for, like instilling that confidence, knowing how to pitch yourself, knowing what to tell the hiring manager, like, this is what I bring to the table pre AI, so you couldn't like go to Chat GPT and ask them how to, prep for that type of stuff. So I will say they did a really great job of that. But, interviewing, resume building, getting the job is just the first step. And I think what it didn't prepare me for, especially when it comes to sales, is just to be resilient and just remind yourself that if something's not working out, either it could be a timing thing or maybe it's a chance to pivot into something else. So I think that's one thing that school doesn't prep you for, and they don't really, teach you those things. And that's kind of a skill that you develop, I feel like once you're kind of in the real world on your
Hmm.
own. But just being resilient, building out that network. I mean, they briefly touched on it, but they really didn't mention like, your network really is what's going to get you to where you need to go. And I know everyone kind of repeats that all over and over again, and sometimes it sounds so redundant. You're like, I have a degree, I know what I'm doing. Why do I have to build my network? But it really is those people that are going to tap on your shoulder and give you a job or a promotion or whatever it might be later on down the road. So I think two things that I didn't necessarily learn in school, but I feel like were very important to my success were being resilient and also building out your network in as many ways as possible, not just within sales, but just with everyone around you, and build meaningful connections within your network. Sometimes it's that people just reach out to build their network, but
Hmm.
building your network is also just having meaningful connections with those people. So that way you guys can connect in the future, on personal topics. It's not even just, school
Exactly.
or work or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. So I think those were the two things that, the books can't really teach you, but it's, a skill that is very important in corporate America and in your life beyond your college degree.
Yeah, and one of the things I talked about on one of the recent podcasts for this one is about building, your highlight reel. Like what I try to say to people, if you're in school right now, you're building your highlight reel. Like that's going to be like your that shows your character. Because when you go into an interview, it's a slow character reveal, and people like myself that are hiring leaders, I'm looking, I'm trying to find what is the character of this person and is it the right fit for this role? And so, was there a point, one of the questions that I really like this one is like, was there a point that you got into this that you doubted yourself? You didn't tell me this as your early manager, but did you ever doubt yourself and think maybe this isn't for me and I was going to go in another direction? And if yes, how did you correct that? Because you're still in the job.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was I there was a couple times I doubted myself, especially when I was trying to make that jump into the AE role and to take on, a book of accounts. There was a couple times where it didn't work out and I questioned like, well, is it because the role isn't for me, or is the timing just not right? And I think I had to do a lot of like self-reflecting within that time. That was like probably my first, I was probably a year and a half into the ODT role or BDR role at that time.
Hmm.
And I just had to do a lot of self-reflecting. And what helped me was the people around me, the people I was talking to, my mentors, my network. I would talk to them and have these like one-on-ones, these heart-to-hearts, and be like, from your perspective, am I doing something wrong? And I think that's what people also fail to forget is sometimes constructive criticism needs to be, you need to ask for it. And when I was talking with everyone around me, they would always give me, tips and tricks, but they would always say, I really think sales is for you. Like, I don't think it's one of those things like you should just give up on because maybe the timing's not right. So I think I just kind of made sure to lean on the people around me and also self-reflect and make sure that it was something I felt good about. And I always felt good about sales, especially again, the earning potential, I like to spend money. So I
I
was like,
have no
the
problem with earning potential. I remember, saying this to you guys in the interview that like, look, tell me you want to make a lot of money. I don't have any issue with that. It's like some people are like, I'm like, it's sales. That's what we want to do. So I'm completely
exactly.
fine with that.
Exactly. So I feel like that was, that was my driver, but also just talking to everyone around me and just kind of them reiterating to me that you are in the right place. Like this is a career. It was a lot of salespeople. So it was also great advice to get because, it's the role I wanted to be in. And if, they gave me advice like, hey, maybe this is not the role, or maybe you should pivot to something else, I would have been open to it. But the fact that they were so adamant at supporting me helped me realize, okay, don't doubt yourself. It's just a timing thing. Maybe you're not ready for the role right now. And eventually it did work out and I was able to grow into the AE role and beyond that. So I think the biggest thing about self-doubt is remind yourself what you bring to the table and also lean on the people around you that know your true worth and your true self. Sometimes, especially in the virtual world, and I can only imagine for you interviewing people, it's hard for people to see your authentic self, but the more you open up, the more you talk to people, even if it's behind a Zoom screen, people can see who you truly are, and
Exactly.
it helps you later on down the road if you need people to lean on. Like, hey, I'm doubting myself here. People can help give you that reassurance. Like, hey, no, I know you on a personal level. Yeah, this is for you, or maybe you should do this instead.
Look at you. So well rounded now. All right. I got three. I have three more for you here.
Sounds good.
So, when did you realize when did you first realize that career success had more to do with people than performance? And I know it's sales and CSOs would say that it's all about the performance, but you understand that. But when did you realize that because you said you thought it would be an individual contributor role, but when did that really sink in for you?
I think right when I got, um, I mean, even within the BDR role, I started quickly realizing that it's the people around you that are going to get you to that next step and also help you thrive in your current role. Because if it wasn't for the people supporting me when I was a BDR, I wouldn't have been able to be as successful as I was. But I think I noticed pretty early on that it really matters about the people. You're not only learning from them, they're calling your name out in maybe rooms that you're not a part of yet. They are advocating for you, etc. And Darren, you did a great job of reiterating to us that the board of directors is really important. But I think your relationship with people, whether that's internal or external, directly correlates with your performance, especially in sales. If you're great at building relationships internally, having people advocate for you, you'll do the same with customers. And that's
Yep.
exactly what I quickly found out moving out of the BDR role and into the AE role. Because I had fostered so many relationships internally, it helped me really realize how to also foster relationships externally, how to hear people's pain points, how to really be empathetic, how to build these customer relationships where they do want to buy from you, not just because of your title or your role, but because they genuinely like, you as a person, and just being able to have that personal touch. It doesn't matter just internally for promotions, for advancements, for growth. It also transpires into the relationships you have with your customers. So people matter, and building those personal relationships will circle back with you years
Yep.
down the road.
It's man, you paid attention, didn't you? You really
I was
did.
taking notes. I was
You
taking a lot
did.
of notes.
Because really, and especially in sales, and I remember this carrying quotas myself over the years, you had to go to other departments when things needed to be get done, whatever it was. I sold advertising, so graphics department designing ads for you. How you treat those people. Because I remember when I got to leadership, some of the customer service people, the graphics people, and other departments, but like, yeah, when so and so comes to me, I kind of put their stuff off to the side because I can't stand them. They treat me like, they're always demanding and they're rude to me. And it's really like, when you're in a role where you rely and yours is the same, there's so many other departments and how you treat them comes back to where you're going to be successful or not. So it answers the question that, yeah, it's how you work and treat and interact with people that leads to you having good performance.
I
Because
agree.
in that respect. So, yeah, you really did pay attention. I'm very impressed. All right, so a couple more here for you. And this is I love this. Like, what skill do you think has ended up mattering to you far more than you expected? It's like communication, resilience, empathy, preparation, clarity. What traits do you think are like, wow, this has like been really important to why I've been successful thus far?
I think it's hard to pinpoint just one because all of those things you just called out matter a lot in our day to day. I will say I feel like communication um, is probably the number one just because people don't know what you're doing half the time until you communicate it, especially in sales. So it is really important to have clear communication on, you know, the work you're getting done, the what you're bringing to the table internally, but also having clear communication with your customers, et cetera. But
Would
I
you agree
think
that within that is clarity too? Like communication doesn't happen without clarity. I just on my C-level leadership podcast, I just released one today called um, focus without clarity leads to like muddy waters. Like you can someone say, well, you got to focus, you got to focus. But if there's no clarity in what you're focusing on, then so like when you say communication, do you think like clear
yes.
communication of that you want we both sides or three sides understand what it is what we need to do.
Yes, and I think that is an important part of communication because people think communication is just communicating, but it's also understanding. And I think that is it's important to go hand in hand, communication and clarity, because you really need the other side or multiple sides to understand what you're trying to get across. And sometimes making sure something's very clear can help clear something else up. So I think just making sure it's clear communication and kind of reiterating that to whoever the other party is really matters.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like resiliency, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, is probably almost as important as communication, especially with the job market, everything going on, today. You have to be really resilient in knowing that, what you bring to the table. Sales is not easy. It is a very it can be sometimes very monotonous where you have to ensure that you are bringing positivity to every situation, and
Exactly.
not everyone is okay with doing that, and that's okay. That's why some people don't choose to go into sales, but being resilient, bring waking up every day with a positive mindset, like I can do this, I will hit my quota, I will bring value to the table, etc. I think really matters. And even back to whenever I was graduating college, I had only been a server through college. I didn't have much guidance from the people around me, but I was resilient in knowing that like I want a career path for myself, that will lead me to my next step in my life. So I think communication and resiliency are probably top two, but as an empathetic person, I agree that empathy also is probably right up there with it. So I think
That word
all
again.
the ones all the ones you mentioned are very important. It's hard to choose just one, but I think it's important to know soft skills outside of what you learn in college, because that is what's really going to make you thrive in corporate America.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. Empathy, it's a four-letter word these days, but we'll continue to spell it the way it should be spelled. All right, one more question for you, then I'm gonna ask you for a statement at the end here. But so what now in 2026 for Crystal Yildirim, and I'm proud that I pronounced your name correctly, right?
Yes, correct.
Thank you. What does success mean to you now compared to when you first started?
I think that's a good question, but it is a tough one. In sales, I think everyone for the most part, associates success with hitting their quota, and, succeeding in, their day-to-day sales job. But I think there's a lot more to that. It's not just hitting your quota and getting your, commission check. It is really the impact you make. And that sounds kind of cheesy, but it is,
Not to
if
me.
you it's true though. If you do only care about the commission or the sales, like no job is going to be rewarding. If you care about the people, if you care about everyone around you, if you lean in on others, whether they're in the same sales department or where they're, cross-functional teams, like that's what makes you feel successful. Because when you do achieve quota or when you do get the reward trip or whatever it might be, those people reaching out to you and telling you, you were the most deserving, or I'm so happy to see that this worked out for you, like that makes you feel more successful than just hitting the quota, than just getting that commission check. It's really whenever,
Yeah.
the community around you feeds into that success and can be like, you're worthy of this success. It gets rid of the imposter syndrome. Wouldn't say fully, but I think success
Puts it in
today
the
means
closet for a while, makes it
puts it
go
in the
away.
closet. Yeah, hides it away for a couple months. But
Yeah.
I think for me, success today is, day one, it was just hitting my quota, getting my foot in the door, and just kind of just turning and burning, calling and getting my meeting set up. But today, it's not only hitting my quota, but also being successful with the people around me,
Yeah.
because they really make that feel so much better.
When everybody's successful, I think that's for me. I think you hit the nail on the head with that. Is that for me, it's like I get the most satisfaction out of the role of watching you guys go where you're going to go, and I think it's just a great thing. And you really, I think you're very insightful and matured. Everyone's like we're just so sort of clueless, and so I would say my last thing is like a statement for everybody that's listening. They're the crystal Yildirims of upcoming 2026, 27. What's a one piece of advice? You were in school and you know about the fear. We talked about it earlier on. So what's your advice to people that are listening right now as they're trying to decide career path and where they want to go?
I think my one piece of advice is don't stop believing in yourself, whether
There's that song.
don't stop believing. I love that one. But it sounds again cheesy, but it is the truth. Like you have to be resilient. You have to continue to believe in yourself. If things are not working out, trust and truly believe that whatever's meant for you will work out eventually. And that's the mindset I had even coming out of college through today, like if you continue to push for yourself, advocate for yourself, be confident in yourself, even whenever there's times that you're not, just try to, rewire your brain like, I can do this. Things will eventually work out. And good people around you will see your potential, aka a Darren Mel maybe in your future. And that's all that matters, being your authentic self and leaning on others around you.
I love
Um,
that.
don't don't get imposter syndrome for as much as you can try, and just continue to push, because you'll get to where you need to be if you continue to believe in yourself.
Yeah, I think what you just said, really believing in your authentic self is the slayer of the imposter syndrome dragon. I mean, if you think about it that way, if you believe in yourself and your authenticity, I think it is. So,
I
Crystal
agree.
Yildirim, sales account executive superstar and 2026 President's Club trip winner. Thank you for being on the Fearless Not Careerless podcast.
It was my pleasure, Darren. Shout out to Darren's awesome hiring skills for getting me to where I'm at today. And for everyone listening, just continue to push through. And I'm sure all of this advice of all these different series that Darren's going to do, it will work out long term. Look at me with all of my notes. It worked out for me.
Absolutely. And shout out to the UF Business School. Sounds like they did a pretty good job of preparing you. I love to hear that because I got a diploma on the back if it said good luck. So
Yeah, I
when
talked
I
with a
went to
lot of
school,
friends. I talked with a lot of my friends, and they had a similar situation. So I will shout out to the UF Business School for all the prep they did, but also shout out to everyone around me that got me to where I'm at today.
absolutely. And thank you, Crystal, for being on. And
Thanks, Darren.
this has been the Fearless Not Careerless podcast. And we'll talk to you to next time. I'll talk to you next time. Sorry, my English language is fading at the end of the day here. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
This has been the Fearless Not Careerless podcast with Darren Mel. Before you go, remember this. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to move forward with integrity, curiosity, and consistency. If this episode helped you, share it with someone who's building their career too. And if you want more practical insight on leadership, growth, and staying grounded while you rise, subscribe here on Substack, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or anywhere podcasts are welcome. Until next time, be fearless, not careerless. See you next week.